In this short video lecture, I will present constructivism as a learning theory. For some in higher education, this learning theory may ring false with many of the ideals of knowledge that we have. The way that some, perhaps most in higher education, describe knowledge, it is portrayed as something that is more or less out there that researchers, so to speak, discover, while teachers in turn present these findings to the students. But according to constructivism, knowledge is more than that. It is also something that is constructed between people and within people. Jean Piaget's ideas have played a significant role in shaping constructivism learning theory. He argued that knowledge is not simply something that exists outside of us, waiting to be transferred then to the learner. Instead, knowledge is actively constructed by each individual based on their existing understanding and experiences. In other words, learning occurs when students are provided with opportunities and support to actively construct their own understanding. So according to constructivism, people are constantly trying to structure their knowledge. Therefore, when something new is presented to them, you tend to relate it to previous experiences and knowledge. In this way, we can create meaning, we can create structure and understanding from what we encounter. In other words, what we already know becomes the basis for what we can understand in the future. Learning from a constructivist perspective is therefore about constantly creating knowledge models and adjusting the ones we already have based on new experiences and knowledge. As a learning theory, it has had a major influence on how teachers and programs structure their teaching. If we were only concerned with memorizing and learning what the right answers were, it would be a rather superficial form of learning practices that we engage the students in. On the other hand, if we want the learning to allow for a deeper penetration of knowledge for the students, then it must also be perceived as meaningful to the students. You have to offer students the opportunity to see the whole picture and understand how this relates to their own experiences and previous knowledge. Some constructivists, like the Montessori school, have interpreted this to mean that the only knowledge that is reasonable to teach is that which students themselves are motivated to learn. That is, the focus is entirely on the subjective experience of learning. But you don't have to go that far. Instead, it is about recognizing that students are also individuals who are capable of and need to situate what they learn in relation to previous experience and knowledge. Further, according to a constructivist perspective, it must be recognized that deep learning happens when teachers and programs let students bring their experience into the classroom, such as sharing opinions, designing real-life experiments, and having time to reflect. Constructivism, like many other learning theories, has highlighted the social aspect of learning. This is described as the social cultural tradition within constructivism. Within this tradition, it is argued that learning and the production of knowledge are not only the results of the individual's conscious or unconscious cognitive processes. Learning is also seen as the result of a social process where the individual's learning and the social environment cannot be separated. Therefore, culture, social status, and social roles, among other things, will be of crucial importance in shaping how students think. The social context shows what is desirable to think and what you therefore should think. Thus, in the social context, we get to know what knowledge and what skills are worth learning. For a teacher, this is important to know because it makes it possible to critically examine the social environment in which one is part. How is knowledge constructed within this environment? Is it based on values that need to be problematized from a feminist, anti-racist, or post-colonial perspective, just to mention a few examples? Are there learning practices within the learning environment that inhibit students' opportunities for deep learning? Can you create a learning culture based on curiosity and a thirst for knowledge? All these questions and more bring the social cultural tradition into focus. According, Constructivism asks the teacher not only to present knowledge to the students, the theory also challenges them to ask how that knowledge is constructed among the students individually and as a social group. So, that was my very short lecture on Constructivism. Hope it gave you some insights.